Okay. All right. Let's see now. Am I fixed in the center well, or should I pull the camera up a little bit like that? Whoa. Okay, that looks good. Couple of days ago, I finally acquired this. Now, what is this, you may ask? This is a M42 to Sony FE adapter. So I finally get to use this, which is one of my all-time favorite lenses, the Helios 44 M4, I believe, or M7, something like that. It screws on right there. Ooh, just like that. Now I can use this lens, the lens from the 80s, from Soviet Union, with my A7IV. So, amped about these little... I just love these little things. These are so awesome. Alright, but today we're not talking about manual lenses, or we're not talking about filmmaking or taking photos. Well, actually we are, but we are talking more about money, more about the finance side. Because over the past couple of days, we have been talking with my friends about how much should you charge for your services as a beginner photographer who's just, tipping the toes in and making some money with photography or with making videos. Because over the past couple of years, the amount of photographers offering their services to customers, it has increased like hugely. There are so many options out there for a customer to pick a photographer or a filmmaker for their event that it doesn't make any sense. And that is, of course, a good thing, because making money with cameras, it's relatively easy, and if you got any kind of a creative side in you, I highly recommend that you should give it a shot, because there is a lot of need, even with all the new AI features, there's a lot of need for good photographers, passionate photographers, and passionate filmmakers out there. There's a lot of market out there, so I highly recommend that. But when we start to talk about the money side and the finance side, it gets kind of tricky really fast. As a beginner photographer, you might think that you cannot charge that much money for your services as a full-time pro can, and that is true. But you also should not sell yourself and your skills and your services cheap. And there are two sides to this, and I will be going through both of them in this video. First of all, when you start to take photographs or make videos for a client, you must understand one thing. You have already spent money on your gear. You have already spent money on your software that you're using. You have already spent money on camera bodies, lenses, all these kind of things, and accessories. You might have a gimbal, which I don't even have. You might have all that stuff, and you have already spent a whole lot of money on that gear. And your photography and your filmmaking must be able to pay that back to you. Because otherwise you just spend endless amounts of money and never get anything back from it. And also you must think about your salary. How much is your skill set worth? How much is your time worth? Because if you start to make videos, if you start to take photographs for a customer, you must understand that you are the guy who has spent a whole lot of time already to acquire the skill level that you have right now. So that does not come free, and that should not come cheap. Of course, if you are a beginner, you cannot charge that much, but always take into consideration that time is the most valuable asset that you can sell. Your time is the most valuable asset ever, and that should not come cheap. Never, even though you are just a beginner. Then of course you have to include taxes, because, well, you are paying taxes to the government. I don't know how much you are paying, but here in Finland we pay a substantial amount of taxes. So you will have to have some money, into your own pocket also, not just to pay off the gear, not just to pay off the software, not just to pay off expenses and then have nothing on top of the line. As an example, some time ago I updated my video editing software from DaVinci Resolve Free to the Pro version to the Studio version, and I instantly instantly included the amount of money I spent on that software into the next 4 video gigs. It was there, straight on. It cost like $200, $200, something like that. And I paid that off over the next 4 gigs that I made. It was right there, $50 a piece on every 4 gigs. Just like that. And it was paid off. But how much should you charge for your skill set as a beginner photographer? Now this is a topic that never gets old. But if you think that if you're working on a job that pays you, let's say $13 an hour, do you consider that as a good salary? Because I personally, I don't. $13 an hour it's not a good salary, because you will still have to pay taxes from that. That is not something that you live on. So if you are employing yourself as a photographer, as a filmmaker, you should ask for more. You should at least ask for something like $25 an hour, $30 an hour, and that is your salary. That is what comes to you personally, even as a beginner, because you are the one with all the responsibility. You are the one with all that skill that you have acquired over time. Even as a beginner photographer, these days, I would not recommend anything under $100 an hour to anyone. $100 an hour for a beginner is a good substantial starting point. Of course, if you have spent a whole lot more money on your gear, you are not shooting with an entry-level camera, but you have spent a few grand, let's say like $3,000 on your gear, you will have to take that into consideration when you are charging your services from the customer. And as your skill level grows, you get more gigs under your belt, you get more customers that you have worked with, you can start raising up the prices. That is a good thing. If your services get more expensive, then the customers know that, okay, this guy has done a lot of work, he's got a lot of experience, and we can trust him as a photographer, as a creative, to deliver us the content that we are looking for. So don't be afraid to ramp up your prices pretty soon after you have started. There's no shame in that. Because if you keep selling your services too cheap, you are making a very bad favor to both yourself and to the other photographers on the field and in your area. Because if you keep on selling your services cheap, you might have more gigs, but you are not gonna make any more money out of those. And at the same time that you are selling your services cheap, you are making a bad favor to everybody else, because they have to drop their prices so that they can compete with the lowest rate. And that is not a good thing. And if everybody has to lower their prices so that they can compete with the lowest prices on the market, that is not a good sign, because we have to live. We have to make money from our craft. Of course, there are people who are doing photography and filmmaking as a side hustle, and they don't have to rely on their craft as a source of income. But there are people who do this, photography and filmmaking, full time. They get the money from the same sources that you get that side hustle money from. So if you keep on pushing the prices down, everybody is gonna suffer. So that is why I highly encourage you to start with significant prices. Don't sell yourself out cheap, because that is always a bad thing. A customer that pays you $100 now is never gonna pay you $1,000 in the future. That is a fact. No customer that gets your services for $100 is ever gonna pay you $1,000 for the same service. Never. So when you are starting out as a photographer and starting to make money with photography or filmmaking, keep these things in mind. Your time is valuable. Your skill is valuable. Your style is unique. These alone are a good starting point for pricing yourself. Make it $50 each, so you get $150 from that. Then you need to take into consideration the equipment that you're using. How much do you want to pay that off each and every gig? Because it's not free, it's not cheap. So you will have to be able to pay that off. And also include the softwares that you might be using, like DaVinci Resolve or Lightroom or Photoshop. You are paying for those also. So include that also into the bill that you're gonna send the customer. And then of course include the taxes, because you have to pay your taxes, and make sure that your own salary, the money that ends up in your pocket, is no less than the money that you would be making working full-time for someone else. Alright, I hope this helped you guys out. This was a topic that we have been talking a lot about, because there are people who are selling their services so cheap that we cannot compete as professionals, and those gigs are just gonna go to people who sell their services cheapest, and that is not a good thing. Alright, that's all I have for you guys for this video. If you found it useful, hit the like button, subscribe if you have not done so already. Thanks as always for watching, and as always, I will be seeing you guys in the next one. Peace.